Hi, very good morning. I'm Dr. Janak Patel. I'm MD, General Physician. Today we'll be talking on one of the another interesting topic in cardiovascular disease, that is infective endocarditis, or it is also called as infectious endocarditis. It was previously called as subacute bacterial endocarditis, but now the term utilizes infective endocarditis. We'll be discussing under these common headings as usual. So by definition, it is a microbial infection of a endothelial lining of the heart, and most commonly valve are involved. So there are vegetation on the valve leaflets. This infection is on the endocardial surface of the heart. The endocardium is contiguous with valvular structures, and therefore inflammation from infective endocarditis affects cardiovascular valves. And the most common valve involved is mitral, second common is aortic. Then comes tricuspid and pulmonary valve. So the commonest valve to be involved by infective endocarditis is the mitral valve. In 2015, there was algorithm which was put forward for the diagnosis of infective endocarditis, that if there is a suspicion, you utilize modified Duke's criteria, and after using that modified Duke's criteria, you put them into a definite group, possible or rejected group, or purely rejected group with low suspicion. Here it is rejected but with high suspicion. And to reconfirm whether it is a native valve or a prosthetic valve, you undergo echo. And in that echo, you try to take the echo criteria, imaging criteria, and cardiac CT. Here you go for echo microbiological studies, then FDG PET scan or SPECT scan, cardiac CT, or imaging for embolic events. And then according to that, there was again a modified diagnostic criteria by which you have to now divide into definite infective endocarditis, possible infective endocarditis, and rejected infective endocarditis. We'll be going through one by one. Now, according to ESC guidelines, there were major criteria, there were minor criteria. In major criteria, it was blood culture positive for infective endocarditis, where you detect on a two separate blood culture a typical microorganisms. The most common microorganism was Streptococci viridans and Staphylococci aureus. These two were the most common organism. And there was a second group called as a Hessex group. In community acquired, you can have Enterococci in absence of primary focus. Microorganisms were persistently positive in a blood culture, and single positive blood culture for Coxiella burnetii was also taken, and antibody titer more than 1 in 800 was taken as positive. So this was major criteria. The second criteria which was utilized for confirmation of diagnosis of infective endocarditis was imaging studies, where echocardiography was first taken as the major criteria, then was PET scan, and then came what we call as cardiac CT, out of which the echo is cheap and very easy. On echo, if you demonstrate vegetation, or you demonstrate abscess, pseudoaneurysm, or fistula, valvular perforation or aneurysm of valvular structures, new partial dehiscence of prosthetic valve, etc., was considered as a positive criteria. So this was the two major criteria. Among minor criteria, the predisposition such as predisposing heart condition or injection drug use, fever more than 38 degree, vascular phenomena which includes those detected only by imaging like arterial emboli, septic pulmonary infarcts, mycotic aneurysms, intracranial hemorrhage, conjunctival hemorrhage, and Janeway's nodes. These were vascular phenomena. Some of those can be detected by imaging and some of those can be seen clinically like conjunctival hemorrhage and Janeway's node, which were clinically easily identifiable. As far as immunological phenomena is concerned, glomerulonephritis, Osler's nodes, Roth spot, and are a factor in blood. While Osler's nodes and Roth spot you can identify by doing fundoscopy, and Osler's node clinically you can identify. So these were the criteria, and you can demonstrate by urine examination and biopsy glomerulonephritis. There was a fifth criteria in minor, that is microbiological evidence of positive blood culture but does not meet the major criteria, and serological evidence of active infection by the organisms. So these were included in minor criteria. Now if pathological criteria is positive and clinical criteria wise 2 major or 1 major and 3 minor or 5 minor was considered as definite of infective endocarditis. So 2 major criteria or 1 major and 3 minor or 5 minor was taken as positive for definite. In possible 1 major and 1 minor or 3 minor criteria, either of these two. While rejected was firm alternative diagnosis, resolution of symptoms suggestive of infective endocarditis with antibiotic therapy within 4 days, no pathological evidence of infective endocarditis at surgery or autopsy with antibiotic therapy for less than 4 days, or does not meet the criteria for possible infective endocarditis as above. So these were the 3 groups which was being classified: definite, possible, and rejected. So you have to separate out into these 3 groups. So indefinite 2 major or 1 major plus 3 minor or 5 minor, and for possible variety 1 major with 1 minor or 3 minor. So that was taken as standard. Now on surgery or on echocardiography, what are the criteria which are given here? Vegetation, abscess, pseudoaneurysm, perforation, fistula, valvular aneurysm formation, dehiscence. If you demonstrate this, it was taken as a positive criteria. So in a clinically suspected infective endocarditis, you can go for the transthoracic echo or a transesophageal echo. And depending upon that, what are the echocardiography findings, you label them into different groups. So you can put them into clinical suspicion groups, into high suspicion and low suspicion, etc. There are some terminology which are very frequently utilized. One is infective endocarditis. There was one term called as subacute bacterial endocarditis, but that is now replaced by infective endocarditis. There is also one term called as acute bacterial endocarditis. And depending upon the etiology, bacterial, viral, fungal, or non-bacterial. And non-bacterial in short term it is called NBE. And if there is a non-bacterial thrombotic endocarditis, it is also called merantic endocarditis or called as NBTE. If it is on the natural wall, it is called NVE. If it is on a prosthetic wall, it is called the PVE. If it occurs on the undersurface of a valvular structure, in a case of SLE, it is called Libman-Sack syndromes. If it is occurring on the mitral wall and tricuspid wall, if it is on the tricuspid wall, it is called right side endocarditis, and if it is on the mitral wall, it is called left side endocarditis. If it is secondary due to some procedures, it is called nosocomial infective endocarditis. But if it is because of a community acquired organism, it is called community acquired infective endocarditis. And in case of a IV drug abused person, if it occurs, it is called IVDA, infective endocarditis. These are all the different terms which are being utilized, and you put those terms in case of infective endocarditis. So basically they are classified into acute and subacute, native valve and prosthetic valve, right side and left side, depending upon the presentation, which valve is involved and which side is involved. Acute is less than 6 weeks, subacute is more than 6 weeks. Depending upon the etiology, bacterial, viral and fungal. If it is a non-bacterial, you divide into non-bacterial and non-bacterial thromboembolic or thrombotic endocarditis. We call merantic endocarditis. Depending upon the organism, community acquired and nosocomial or IV drug abuse, etc. Now, as far as the active is concerned, infective endocarditis with persistent fever and positive blood culture, or active inflammatory morphology found at surgery, or patient still under antibiotic therapy, and there is a histopathological evidence of active infective endocarditis. Then there was one term which was utilized, was active infective endocarditis. And as far as the recurrence is concerned, there were two terms which were commonly utilized. One was relapse and second was reinfection. Relapse means repeat episode of infective endocarditis caused by the same microorganism within less than 6 months after the initial episodes. While reinfection means infection with different microorganism, and there is a repeat episode of infective endocarditis caused by same organism, but time taken is more than 6 months after initial episode. Then it was called as a reinfection. So these were these three terms: active, recurrence and in recurrence, relapse and reinfection. We already mentioned left side, right side, and device related. You can have a pacemaker, cardioverter, etc. And according to the organism, nosocomial, non-nosocomial, or we call acquired immunity, acquired or community acquired infection, and intravenous drug abuse. These were the different terms which were being utilized. There was also one term called as a pediatric autoimmune neuropsychiatric disorder associated with streptococcal infection, that is called PANDAS, but that is not infective endocarditis. And PSRA was utilized with post-streptococcal reactive arthritis, but that is not infective endocarditis. The commonest microorganisms which are there is Staphylococci and Streptococci. Streptococci viridans and Staphylococci aureus. The commonest valve which is being involved is mitral, second is aortic, third comes both together mitral with aortic, and then last is tricuspid and pulmonary, which are absolutely rare. Usually it will occur on a predisposing factor where there are valvular structure, or we call endocardial damage, VSD, mural endocardium, or intracardiac device, either CRT or pacemaker or ICD, etc. Then microorganism from the primary focus, which can be dental, lung abscess, empyema, bronchiectasis, or can be from pyelonephritis, pyoderma, osteomyelitis, or sinusitis, chronic sinusitis, etc. And if there is a decreased immunity, those microorganisms can easily spread from primary focus to the endocardium, that is a damaged endocardium, and can end up with infective endocarditis. So as far as microorganism is concerned, we have already mentioned bacteria, viral and fungal, among which the bacteria is more common. Fungal is more common in a person with nosocomial infection or following some procedures, or even in a severe low immunity group of people. And among organisms, Streptococci viridans, Staphylococcus aureus and Essex group. Among GI tract, Streptococcus, Galeticus, and among gut, particularly Enterococci, which can come from the gut. In acute, Beta hemolyticus is more common, Staph aureus is more common, and Pneumococci. In subacute varieties, Streptococci viridans, Enterococci, Cons, and Essex. While in indolent, Bartolina and this rare organism, Brunnati. So we already mentioned Streptococci and Staphylococci comes topmost on the list, and most common is Streptococci. Fungi is more common with the person who has got some procedure which is being done, or Candida is common, and another common organism in fungi is Aspergillus. Gram negative is rare, and among Essex you can come across in a culture negative endocarditis. In a native wall, these are the organism. Again, you can see Streptococci is more common than Staphylococci. Also in prosthetic valve, Streptococci and Staphylococci is the most common organisms. The name in a Essex group, it is very difficult. Even I don't remember all these names. Haemophilus, Actinobacillus, Cardiobacterium, Echinella, and Kingnella. You can see among the most common organism, this is Staphylococcus aureus. The second big group is Streptococci viridans, 19%, and this is 31%. And then Staphylococci, this is another Staphylococci. Then this is another Streptococci. You got a Essex group, etc. But the most common group is Staphylococci aureus and Streptococci viridans. Primary focus, the most common primary focus which comes is from lung abscess, bronchiectasis, among skin, pyoderma, bone, osteomyelitis, dental abscess, dental caries, sinusitis, quinsy, etc. We have already told you the risk factor or a predisposing factor. You must have a valvular damage or prosthetic valve, IV drug abuse, intravenous catheterization, shunt procedures, pacing, ICD, CRT, etc. Even it is common in congenital heart disease like VSD, ASD, PD8, tetralogy of Fallot, degenerative cardiac disorders, immunocompromised host, HIV infection, steroids in a drug addicts, the person who undergoes tattooing or dental work, or even if a person has got gum injury or dental injury secondary to brushing, etc. So these are all many malignancy, thyrotoxicosis, diabetes mellitus, person with severe anemia, neutropenia, sorry, R is missing here, pancytopenia, anti-cancer drugs, person who is on steroids, bone marrow failure, radiotherapy, radioisotope therapy, etc. All these are precipitating factor where your immunity is markedly low, and that will can involve prosthetic valve as well as natural valve. These are some of the conditions where you can have, this is a prosthetic valve, this is a pacemaker where you got an insertion of a what we call is a pacemaker lead into ventricle or into atria, and that you can have a high chance of getting infective endocarditis because of damage to the endocardium. This is prosthetic valve. This is skin infections, drug abuse, alcoholic, and sepsis decreases the immunity, diabetic, neutropenia, immunosuppression patients who are on steroids or on anti-cancer drugs, radiotherapy, etc. Even following a GI procedures like barium enema, colonoscopy, genitourinary procedures like prostatectomy, etc. also can end up with tooth extraction, periodontal surgery, teeth cleaning, teeth brushing, flossing, toothpicks use. Chewing food also can involve because that can also produce damage. Biopsy, suture removal, orthodontic bands, tonsillectomy, adenectomy, bronchoscopy, respiratory tract procedures like draining abscess, empyema, etc. can be also predisposing factors. Central venous catheter, bladder catheterization, endoscopy, staving, skin and musculoskeletal infections. These are some of the factors. Immunocompromised hosts like HIV, cancer patient, leukemia, lymphomas, etc. Now we go to what we call as a pathophysiology. Basically, the person has to have an endocardial surface being damaged, either by valvular structures damage like valvular heart disease, maybe because of rheumatic or maybe other condition which produce a damage to the endocardial surface of valvular structures, or maybe a congenital heart disease, maybe a cyanotic heart disease. Now on this damaged valve, you get a bacterial vegetation if the bacteria enters into the body either by direct entry, that is via different procedures like CRT, ICD, or pacemaker, or some surgery, or in a IV drug abuse, or from a primary focus, secondary due to decreased immunity. In those conditions also the microorganism can easily form a vegetations. Once it forms a vegetation on a valvular structures, it will release endotoxins. Those endotoxins will produce general symptoms and signs like fever, body ache, lassitude, backache, headache, nausea, vomiting, loss of appetite, etc. As well as it releases endotoxins which will produce local inflammation and damage to the valvular structures. And because of that damage, you can get an acute valvular involvement or a chronic valvular involvement. In an acute valve, there may be destruction of the valve leading to regurgitation, and chronic damage can end up with fibrosis and can end up with regurgitation or stenosis. Because of the turbulence of the flow, this infective endocarditis vegetations on a valvular structure can get dislodged and give rise to what we call as an embolic phenomena. And secondary to embolic phenomena, you can get thromboembolism, and which will be infective material. It will give rise to brain abscess, meningitis, lung abscess, pyelonephritis, or even joint involvement, bone involvement, etc. It also gives rise to what we call as an embolic phenomena we call as a Osler's node. But in case of immunological mediation, there is an immunological response and it can give rise to immune mediated findings like glomerulonephritis, Roth spot, or Janeway's nodes. So this will be the different findings what you can come across in a pathophysiology. So we have already explained all those parts. So organism, adherence, vegetation formations, then damage, local damage to the endothelial surface and gives rise to vegetation formation. You can have a uninfected platelet fibrin formation, that is we call as non-bacterial thrombotic embolism, or you can have a transient bacteremia, proliferation, and then friable material, gets dislodged and gives rise to embolic phenomena. So it can give rise to local destruction, embolic phenomena, hematogenous spread, and antibody response. Any one of this. I've already mentioned all those things. Commonest site is mitral and aortic valve. So mitral and aortic valve is the most commonly involved. You can have a bacteremia producing all symptom signs secondary due to bacterial toxins. And depending upon the hemodynamic factor on whether it will be on a site where there is a maximum turbulent flow which is producing a damage to the valvular structures. And commonest complication we already mentioned, embolic phenomena, local spread, distant embolic phenomena, and formation of an immune complex, glomerulonephritis, arthritis, etc. Embolic may be septic or sterile, etc. So all those things what we have already mentioned, this is immunological mechanism which will produce RA factor positive. You can have a glomerulonephritis which can occur. You can have a Osler's node, Roth spot. These are the three common. Roth spot, Osler's node, and glomerulonephritis becomes topmost on the list. If you get an infected emboli blocking the vasa vasorum, then you can have formation of a mycotic aneurysms. In CNS, you can get mycotic aneurysm or you can get an infective emboli producing meningitis and lung brain abscess. In a spleen, splenic infarcts and splenic abscess formation. In lung, you can get pulmonary embolism, pneumonia, pleural effusion, empyema, etc. So, clinical features you can divide into general symptoms and signs like fever, with chills or without chills, anorexia, malaise, loss of weight. Clinical signs wise, anemia, which will be very commonly normochromic, normocytic, mild splenomegaly, microscopic hematuria, proteinuria. You will have a changing heart murmur on cardiovascular auscultation, and person can precipitate congestive heart failure. Immunological, dermatological signs wise, Osler's nodes, and embolic signs like Janeway's nodes. Person can also develop Roth spot, which can be easily detected by fundoscopy. You will have elevated gamma globulins, ESR, CRP will be elevated, RA factor may be positive. So this will be all the different. We have already mentioned previously the Duke's modified criteria, that is two major or one major with three minor or five minor. So these are the classical criteria for definitive infective endocarditis, and in case of a possible one major with one minor or three minor, in that case it is possible, and in neglected variety or rejected variety we call as none of these major or minor criteria is present and it is bacteriologically culture negative, and on treatment with antibiotics all symptoms and signs disappears. So that will be typical. You can see here the most common symptoms is fever, chills, weakness, dyspnea, anorexia, weight loss. These are all clinical symptoms and signs. Headache, myalgia, all those symptoms and signs. As far as signs are concerned, fever, cardiovascular murmur, particularly changing murmur, then new murmur, embolic phenomena, Osler's node, petechial hemorrhages, splinter hemorrhages, Janeway's nodes, splenomegaly, all those clinical symptoms and signs. So do look for all these signs, they are important. You will have a finding because of the damage to intracardiac structures, because of embolization, because of hematogenous spread and bacteremia, and because of immune complex mechanism like Osler's node, glomerulonephritis, or Roth spots. So we have already mentioned all these findings. These are cardiac investigations. These are non-cardiac findings like CNS involvement, skin, spleen, kidney, glomerulus, Roth spot, Osler's, which are immunological findings. We'll show you some of the diagram. This is splinter hemorrhages, small reddish spot in a nail bed. You will have a Roth spot. You will have a conjunctival hemorrhage. You will have a poor dentition, clubbing, splinter hemorrhage, Osler's nodes and Genway's nodes. Genway's nodes will be in the palmar surface. Osler's nodes will be in the pad of the fingertips. Fever, changing murmur or new murmur, embolic phenomena, and splenomegaly, urine showing you proteinuria, hematuria, and you will have a RBC cast. This is almost showing you a complete picture of an infective endocarditis. A common symptom signs because of infections, which can be infective pathophysiology, damage to the heart, producing a murmur, embolic phenomena, and immunological phenomena, which can be there. I've already mentioned that will be, we call Osler's node, Roth spot, and symptom signs of glomerulonephritis. These are all those things again shown. These are Genway's nodes. These are petechial hemorrhages. These are splinter hemorrhage. This is splinter hemorrhage. This is what we call as a Genway's nodes. Petechial hemorrhage. This is Roth spot. This is Genway's node. This is conjunctival hemorrhage. These are all the different findings you can see. We've got lot of diagrams. This is showing you pneumonia with empyema. This is spleen showing you abscess. These are mycotic aneurysm, conjunctival hemorrhage. These are Genway's nodes, and this is brain abscess. So Genway's node will be in almost 10%, Roth spot 5%, splinter hemorrhage in 15%, Osler's nodes in 10 to 25%, and clubbing is a very common feature. These are the common peripheral stigmata, of which Roth spot and Osler's nodes are immunological finding. This you can detect by fundoscopic examination, while Genway's, splinter hemorrhage, clubbing, and Osler's nodes you can detect by clinical examination. These are what we call as Osler's. These are splinter hemorrhages, Roth spot. These are Genway's nodes. These are Genway's nodes. These are Genway's nodes. So Roth spot, splinter hemorrhage, splinter hemorrhage. These are Osler's node. This is Genway's nodes. So again, Osler's nodes, splinter hemorrhage. These are Genway's nodes, and these are Roth spots. Roth spots. These are Roth spots, hemorrhages with Roth spot formations. So Genway's nodes are in a palmar surface, Osler's on the tip of the finger. You can have a clubbing and splinter hemorrhage in a nail bed. Again, repeated multiple diagrams are there. Splinter hemorrhages, conjunctival hemorrhage. This will be Genway's nodes. These are Osler's nodes. These are Genway's nodes. This is Osler's. This is Genway. These are Genway's nodes. These are Osler's node. This is Genway's nodes. Genway's nodes are non-tender red spots, irregular in outline, non-hemorrhagic, and blanches on pressure, usually on the palmar surface or on the sole. So they are non-tender, mainly seen in a palmar and sole, while Osler's nodes on the tip of the finger, they are pink. Remember 4 P's: pink, painful, pea size, and on the pulp of the finger or the toes. So these are Osler's and these are Genway's nodes. These are tender, these are non-tender. Just remember that way, that is also enough. These are all petechial hemorrhages on the subcutaneous surface. These are in oral cavity. This is a conjunctival hemorrhage. This is in the skin. These are splinter hemorrhages. These are splinter hemorrhages. This is clubbing. We have already told you clinical presentation. We have given you the previous slides showing you in which you have definite criteria, possible and rejected criteria. This is by utilizing what we call as an echocardiography. At your leisure time you can go through, in which you got a high suspicion and decreased suspicion, or we can put them into rejected groups. Already we have almost covered. Blood culture is the main gold standard for confirming the diagnosis of, we call pathological criteria, for confirming the diagnosis of infective endocarditis. And second gold standard is echocardiography. And then comes what we call as the imaging studies like CT or PET scan. Clinical criteria wise, changing murmur, new murmur, ECG, you can have a PR prolongation, X-ray chest, cardiomegaly, and in CBC, anemia, normocytic normochromic, leukocytosis, increased ESR, CRP elevated, and urine showing you proteinuria, RBC cast, and RBC. So these are some of the investigation which will be commonly being asked for. So echocardiography is most important part, and second most important part is a blood culture. ECG non-specific, chest X-ray non-specific, CT and MRI may help you to identify in some of the cases, but most important part is PET scan. Cardiac catheterization usually is not confirmative. It will help you to identify the site of damage, etc. Blood culture is most important part, and this is idea regarding a blood culture. You can go through your at leisure time. This is before starting what we call as antibiotic, you should go for a blood culture, microbiological diagnosis. This is echocardiography. You put them into different groups. Hello. हाँ बोल बोल. हाँ हाँ એ જોઈ લઈશું હમણાં નીકળીશ દવાખાને જવા ત્યારે ત્યાં આગળ આવી જોઈ લઈશ. હા ચોક્કસ. હા ચોક્કસ. હા હા કશો વાંધો નહીં, જોઈ લઈશું. હા 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 જોઈ લઉં પછી આપણે. હા 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 વાંધો નહીં. એ તો થોડુંક સમજાવીશું એટલે જે હા ચોક્કસ. ના એમને એમનું કશું પેલું નહીં, અને આમાં થવાનું આ પેલું જે કિડનીને ડેમેજ થયું હોય ને એટલે એમાં એ થોડુંક પેટમાં દુખે. એક તો એક એન્ટાસિડ લખી આપીશ ને એટલે આવી જશે, રાહત થઈ જશે. હા અચ્છા, એ તો ચાલવાનું હવે મુખ્ય આ તો બધી વસ્તુ બનવાની જ છે. હા ચોક્કસ. હા ચોક્કસ. હા 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 ઓકે. હા ચાલો. હા ચોક્કસ. હા ચોક્કસ. હા 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 So echocardiography, particularly trans-echo or trans-esophageal, becomes most useful criteria to confirm the diagnosis in case of infective endocarditis. These are all the different slides you can go through at your leisure time. Among laboratory criteria, none of those are very useful. RA factor is positive in 50% of the cases. Hematuria will be common in 40%, leukocytosis in 25% only. Elevated creatinine may be there in only 10%, thrombocytopenia and leukopenia you might get in some. So these are some of the blood picture. So most important criteria which you can take for prognostic is elderly person, prosthetic valve, insulin dependent diabetes mellitus and other comorbid conditions. If it is more of fungi or gram negative organisms, Staph aureus. If a person has got complication, they've got usually poor prognosis like heart failure, CKD, stroke, septic shock or periannular complications. And echocardiography by this particular things, if you find on echo, they've got usually poor prognosis. As far as management is concerned, first is control of infection. Then second, treat the basic etiology, means treatment of the basic valvular heart disease or congenital heart disease. Then treatment of the primary focus and treatment of the precipitating factors. And then you can go for what we call as a prophylaxis. So for control of infection, parenteral antibiotic is preferred. And for treatment of the basic etiology, usually surgical intervention is the most common thing which is being required after control of infections. And selection of antibiotics should be helped by blood culture and antibiotic sensitivity. These are the different groups of antibiotics and these are the class. So penicillin, amoxicillin and ceftriaxone comes to the class 1 group. So those are the most preferred antibiotics for treatment of infections. And recommended prophylaxis during dental procedures is in all this person, prosthetic valve, previous infective endocarditis, congenital heart disease, then devices like cardiac catheter or pacemaker, or person who has got CRT, etc. So in those particular group, you must give infective endocarditis prophylaxis. Usually prophylaxis is not given in this group if there is no indications like VSD, ASD, pulmonary stenosis, AR, PDA, coarctation, etc. So no longer they give prophylaxis in this group. Now for neurological complications, usually CT scan is advised and you can take an advantage of CT scan and decide whether the person needs surgery or not depending upon the clinical findings. And in some of the people, you might need a conservative line of treatment and monitoring. Surgery is very commonly indicated. We have already told you if the person has got high risk and poor prognosis. In those particular group, you can suggest for a surgery, that is usually valve replacement or valvuloplasty. Echocardiographic feature for surgical interventions are this. At your leisure time you can go through if you are interested. These are infective endocarditis prevention, where you will have to give antibiotic prophylaxis in a person and maintain oral hygiene, aseptic measures, and you must take all the precautions so that the person does not get any oral infections, etc. Predictor of poor outcomes in patient with infective endocarditis, we have already given before, one slide we have given before. In patient characteristic, clinical implications, microorganisms and echocardiographic finding, we have already shown you the slide before. Some of the complications are very common in infective endocarditis is congestive heart failure, septic embolization particularly to the kidney, heart, spleen, brain, those groups. Rare complications are myocardial abscess, glomerulonephritis, mycotic aneurysm only in 10% of the people, pericarditis. So heart failure is the most common. Second common is septic emboli, that is second common, or you can have an embolic phenomena producing stroke and MI, and rare is glomerulonephritis. So these are all the different neurological complications: mycotic aneurysm, embolic phenomena, local invasions, glomerulonephritis, etc. So we have already put this before also: embolic complications, local spread, metastatic, that is distance embolization, and immune complex disorders like glomerulonephritis. This is embolic complications. These are stroke, myocardial infarction, ischemic limb, pulmonary embolization, septic embolization in spleen and renal, metastatic spread into brain producing meningitis, brain abscess, encephalitis, osteomyelitis, kidney, spleen, soft tissue, and joints. Cardiac complications, we already mentioned congestive heart failure and acute MR, acute AR, very, very common. Systemic embolization also we already mentioned, recurrent fevers. So I end my lecture here. I hope this will be helpful to you. You will come across very frequently in your everyday practice, and almost it is quite easy to suspect and confirm the diagnosis by echocardiography and by blood culture. So I end my lecture here.